So for those of you who are new or visiting, my name is Jake. I am not Pastor Chris. My wife, Lauren, and we are one of the leaders here at People Church. And, you know, I love having the opportunity to speak. It wasn't always that way by any means. I actually tried to stay as far away from group activities as possible. Anything where there were more than 3 people, I was nervous to talk in that group. So this is not natural for me, but yet God has a way of using you for things that maybe you don't see on your table just yet. You don't see it as in your wheelhouse. It's actually there. He's waiting to unlock it. So for me, it's always so special to do this, to be able to share. And it's a very gratitude-inspiring thing for me because I don't know. I've been around churches my whole life, and I grew up in church. And not every pastor is like the pastors that we have, Pastors Chris and Audrey, where not only do they raise up leaders and seek to elevate people above them, but they have no problem sharing the platform. They have no problem getting other people up there because we're all operating under the same thing, that God is doing something here. It's not about one person. It's not about one leader, anything. It's actually about God doing things through all of us. And I think they exemplify that so well. So can we give it up for our pastor, Pastor Audrey? It's going to be a good Sunday. It's going to be a good morning. So before we get into it, if you're cool, I'm going to just pray. So let's go. God, thank you so much for this morning. Thank you that you're moving in our lives individually and in this church, God. God, I just pray that the next 35 minutes, that it's your word speaking through me, God, that the message that you put in my heart, that, God, it would hit somebody in this room that needs it, God. I know what it is to feel like I'm the one in the room that doesn't belong. I pray that anybody that feels that would just go in this moment, that they know that this is home, this is where they're meant to be, God. And I just pray that you use these words to break some things in people, God, break some strongholds, whatever it is, in Jesus' name, we lift it up to you. You're the best. Amen. I always like to remind Jesus that I think he's the best. It's important. So, we're starting a new series, and if you've been around People Church a little bit, you'll know that pretty much every series we say it's the best series. But that's not a marketing tactic. I actually genuinely believe that. When you look at the Israelites and, Israelites in the Old Testament, God used them to show how he interacted with his people. It's not just stories, but he actually shows us how he interacts with us. One of my favorite things that he did is when he was leading them out of Egypt, out of slavery, through the desert, he would bring manna down every single day. And he commanded them, don't take more than what you need for today. He always said that. But there's always the people that are like, but I could take a little extra. Like, there's a lot of it, and nobody's like fighting over it. There's plenty to go around. And they would go back home, store it, and the next morning it would be filled with maggots. And I always felt like God is sending us a message through that, right? Jesus, when he tells us to pray, he says, give us this day our daily bread. That's what he tells us to pray to God. He's actually pointing back to this time where God was showing them for the first time that he had something new for them every single morning, that he had provision for them every single morning. And so why we say this is going to be our best series is because it's what God is doing right now. It's what he's doing right now, and he's actually doing, honestly, whether you've been a Christian forever and you've known so much freedom that you're so free that you'll bring a tambourine to church, or you've maybe never experienced this at all, God has freedom for you. And more freedom is better than less freedom. So this is the best series we've ever had. It is going to be the best series we've ever had as a church because it's what God is doing right now. And also, this is my first series that I'm kicking off, okay? I'm kicking it off. So I've never done this before. So you gotta be hyped. Are you hyped this morning? It's gonna be good. I just need that. That was for me. All right. So, if you're new or visiting, like I said, welcome. We're really happy you're here. We love people. And I know that can be a statement that is a little bit hard to accept, especially when it's like, you don't even know me. And it's weird to say, I love you on like the first meeting, right? Like, it's a little bit much. I had a girlfriend, second day we ever hung out in the middle of a Walmart, she said, I love you. And I just went, wow, that's something. You don't exactly know how to respond when somebody says they love you and you're not quite ready for it. And I think it's weird, when people say God loves you or I love you. It's like, I don't know. I don't think you know me. And if you did, you certainly wouldn't say God loves me. And I think that's something that I've struggled with, something that I've had a hard time comprehending is God loving me and actually wanting to have a relationship with me. Like, it's so weird to me because there's so many different kinds of relationships, right? Like, what kind of a relationship does God want? Is this sort of a landlord-tenant situation where as long as I pay my rent on time, you won't kick me out? Like, I'm going to be good. I'll get into heaven as long as I do enough good things. I don't know. I don't know. A relationship with God sounds really weird and far off. For me, I struggled with that for so long. And if I'm honest, I still struggle to actually comprehend it. Like, why would God want a relationship with me? But I actually think it's something that we need to understand. It's something we need to actually grasp because it affects the way we actually approach God. You ever notice that the way you think somebody thinks about you affects the relationship? I can speak to you from the 4 years of wisdom that has come from marriage for me so far. Not too much, but enough to learn certain lessons. One being, if my wife says she's not mad, I just need to believe her. It's just way easier. Because so many problems in our marriage early on were what I thought she was thinking. And she's like, I'm not thinking what you think I'm thinking. And I'm like, I'm not thinking what you think I think you're thinking. And the fights go on forever. And it affected our relationship so much because I'm like, well, she's mad at me. So therefore, it filtered the way I actually viewed the words she was speaking to me. And I think we've got to define what actually God thinks of us, what kind of a relationship he's after here, because it'll always affect the way we actually approach the relationship in the first place. So I want to talk about, basically, so our series, they put it up there already, Reconciled. Reconciled. And I want to talk to you from the topic, I walk alone. So reconciled, right? I actually thought I knew what this word meant. It's a word that I've seen in the Bible maybe before, but I had to Google it, if I'm honest. Like, Google is an amazing teacher, and I attend class frequently at google.com. It is one of the best educators for me. And I looked up this word thinking I knew what I was going to get, you know? Like, I thought it was going to be like redemption type of stuff, like, oh, he sets you up, he saves you, all these things. But in reality, you look at reconciled, the definition is simply this: the restoration of friendly relations. So let's read this verse real quick through this lens, right? 1 Timothy 2, 5-6. This is what it says about Jesus. It says, there is one God and one mediator who can reconcile God and humanity, the man Christ Jesus. He gave his life to purchase freedom for everyone. This is the message God gave to the world at just the right time. So reconcile. So Jesus, it says in this verse, he came to reconcile us with God, right? Well, let's look at the definition of reconcile. It's the restoration of friendly relations. So if Jesus is coming and restoring something, it means that they once existed. And not a relationship that was just, oh, you're up there and we're down here, but it says friendly relations. Like, we actually had a friendly relationship with God at one point. When was that? You have to actually go back to the very beginning. See, God creates everything, speaks everything into existence, then creates man, puts us right in the middle of everything he created. Now, you would think at the end of that, God would be kind of on like a, see that? Come down, like, check this out. See this tree? Yeah. This tree is self-sustaining. It can do whatever it wants. I made it that way. It feeds itself. It's cool. Just needs sunlight. Made it. You'd think he'd be reveling in the things that he just made if he comes down at all. But it actually said he comes down, and in all of the things that he created, what does he do? He walks with man. That's it. Strolls. Like no agenda. So if Jesus came and died to restore us to a place where we had a relationship with God that was not agenda-based, that didn't feel like a strain, that felt like an effortless friendship, how close are we to actually living that right now? And I'm talking to somebody who's maybe been a Christian for 30, 35 years. You know everything about the Bible. You know it front to back. You know the Greek and the Hebrew, the Aramaic. You know every type of love and when it's mentioned. I mean, I'm talking to you because at the end of the day, all the knowledge does nothing if our heart isn't connected to him in the way that it was designed to be from the beginning. He wants to actually walk with us effortlessly. You ever have a friend that you can just do nothing with? It's actually something when you sit down and talk to people, they go, man, I just miss the days where you just go knock on somebody's house, knock on their door and just hang out. Why are you here? Imagine if you did that now. It feels weird to think about. Hey, just met you at work. Just wanted to come to your house. But yet when you're a kid, you do that. You're just like, I just want to hang out with him. Because it's in us to desire this effortless friendship, right? It's there for a reason. Because God actually had that with us. See, I have a friend actually. I moved out here with a friend named Drew, and when we first got to Chicago, I remember we were just like, all right, let's try to explore, right? Like, we don't know anything about the city. We're from Indiana, so it's like the trains, we're like, whoa. You know? It didn't take much to impress us. And so we're like, well, let's just hop on the train and let's have a little adventure and just walk around. So we get off at the Division Blue Line stop, and we just walk east towards the lake, right? So we don't know what we're going to find. We just pass a car dealership. Oh, that's cool. Walk under an underpass. All right. And it's like 20 minutes, and there's just nothing. If you've ever been on that stretch of Division, there's nothing there. And Drew's just like, kind of feels like we're just in the middle of Ohio or something. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But you know what? It's so funny because it didn't matter the things that were happening around us. Because for us, the walk was actually what was enjoyable. Like, we were just hanging out. It didn't really matter what we did. You know, it's funny. God creates everything. And the walk with us was actually the joy, the greatest joy that he had. It didn't matter everything that was happening around, everything that he just created. It was actually the walk with us that he enjoyed the most. That's what he did, everything. And he's like, I just want to walk with you. Don't really care what we do. What do you want to do? Oh, cool, let's pick an apple. Not that apple, you know. That one, I didn't plan that one. But he didn't care what we did. He was just like, let's hang out. Let's spend time together, right? I don't think we view God that way. In fact, I think if that's what reconciliation is, and if Jesus already died, it's been done, what's preventing us from having that with God right now? I think it's just as simple as one of two mindsets. It's either I don't want God or God doesn't want me. I really think it comes down to those two things, because I don't want God, you break that down. In reality, what we're often saying is I don't want the version of God that's been presented to me. I don't want the version of God that I've seen from a distance, the one that's angry, the one that at any minute could turn on me, at any minute could use his power with all of his anger to let me know how wrong I've been my whole life. I'm going to keep my distance. The problem is the way we view God approaches, it actually determines whether or not we approach God at all in the first place. Think about this. If I were friends with LeBron James, right? We just hang out. It's great. Oh, new shoe drop. Sick. Love it. We're just hanging out. And he wants to play basketball. That's what he does, right? So I've seen him play basketball. He's a dominant force of athleticism. He's terrifying. When he wants to score, he scores. When he wants to block your shot, he will do it. And I'm much smaller than the people that, he does that on TV against people a foot taller than me. So if I'm playing this game with him, you better believe I'm terrified. Because I'm pretty sure LeBron James's elbow could crack my sternum and send me to the ER. Just a little nudge. So if I think, okay, he wants to win. Like, he's playing to win. He's playing a game of one-on-one with me, but guess what? In his mind, he's just trying to hang out. If I actually think he wants to dominate me with his power, it changes the way I view his power. I'm actually afraid of it. I'm afraid to even engage in a friendly game with him. When he just wants to hang out, I'm like, whoa, back off. But like, let's not do this. I don't want to die today. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's not what he's actually after. God's the same way. See, yes, he's powerful. Yes, he's got all of these things, but he's not trying to dominate you with it. In fact, if he wanted us to be destroyed, all he had to do was not intervene. Do you realize that? We were clearly good at destroying ourselves. So why intervene at all? Why intervene just to then destroy us? That's not what he's after. See, I don't know what picture you have of God, but he is not a destructive force that wants to lord himself over you. Yes, he's powerful, but guess what? He's in your corner. How does that change the way you approach him? And I think this, we say I don't want God, but in reality, if we knew that what he was offering is what the Bible actually says he's offering, which is the fulfillment that we've been looking for everywhere else in life, the fulfillment in every relationship we've ever gone into, hoping it was the relationship that would finally get to that recessed area of my heart that I don't quite know what is meant for it. If he was actually the fulfillment we've been looking for in our careers, the validation we've been looking for in the people around us, if he was actually those things, who wouldn't want that? Because I think we actually do want it, but we just don't know it's him that we want. That's the first thing, right, that keeps us from him. But the second thing, I think even the more powerful thing, is God doesn't want me. Because that can sound really great. But it's like, yeah, that's for them. That's for the nice people, the good people. That's not for me. God doesn't actually want this person. He doesn't want this heart, right? But if you actually read the Bible, it says God isn't willing that any should perish, not one. That he reconciled humanity. Not one human being, not a group of people that were great, nice, good, kind people, but humanity. the brokenness, all of it, everything. He reconciled that. He saved that. So there's a disparity then. There's a disparity between what we think of ourselves and then what we think God wants to use. Guess what? God, the entire Bible is just him using ordinary people who had enough courage to believe that he was actually right when he said, I pick you, I choose you. So many people, I don't think you meant me. I think you meant that person. When somebody on stage says, this is for you, you're like, yeah, did you hear that? This is for you. No, I'm talking to you. This is for you. It's not for the person on your right or left. God actually wants you. And I believe Jesus wants to tear down the lies that are preventing us from having that reconciliation with God. Because it's already been done. He's already died. He's already paid the price. But there's something in us that goes, it's not for me. I just don't think it's for me. And I want to break that stuff down. So as I said, the title is this, right? I walk alone. You know, for me, that title, that was like the soundtrack of my life, you know? I walk alone, I walk alone. Is that Green Day? Something like that? I don't want to sing into a mic. I can't. One thing I will not do is sing into a mic. I'll do vocal runs all day at home. Ask my wife. They are endless. They're an endless supply. Beyonce's got nothing on me. But I will not sing into a mic. I walk alone. I remember growing up, that was kind of my mindset. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm pretty good on my own. My parents, like, they often didn't know what to do with me growing up in church, and they're like, he's not into this. So I remember one summer, they're like, what if you go on this mission trip to El Salvador? Maybe a week in El Salvador will set you right. It was a medical missions trip, okay? I'm 19. Everybody that's going is like a doctor or a translator, and then there's me. I'm just there. And so I didn't know what to do. I just kept helping people carry their bags. And then when they were like, I got this, I'm like, I'll be in the cafeteria if you need me. Just eating some rice and wondering what I'm doing here. And I remember the last day I was like, okay, if nothing else, I'm going to get some cool Instagram shots because I need my life to look interesting. And this is like 10 years ago, so Instagram was like, there weren't a whole lot. This is when people were still posting their bacon and eggs. Like, legit. And not even with a filter, just like, this is my breakfast. That's where Instagram started. So I'm sitting there like, I've got mountains, I've got like goats and weird stuff. Like, I'm crushing Instagram right now. So I'm like, if I got nothing else, that's what I'm going to do. I remember I got up one morning and I went up to this like rooftop thing to catch a sunrise. And I was just looking at it and I was kind of reflecting on the week. And I was like, man, I was kind of just by myself most of the time. You know, I was like, I don't really have a purpose here. And I remember thinking, I'm better off alone. That was my last thought. I remember that. So I go to climb off of the roof. Turns out El Salvadorian construction is not up to code, let's say. And the side of the roof just snapped off like it was like meant to snap off. So I'm like climbing down and just bam, I fall 12 feet, right? Wreck my knee, like cut it open on a staircase, whatever. So I'm just laying there like, and I look up and there's this lady just running down like full speed with a backpack on. So like she was like on a mission. And I was just like, where did this lady come from? And she's like, takes her backpack off and pulls out a med kit. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she patches me up right there. She goes, yeah, I'm a trauma nurse. She's like, it's weird. But I was actually going to go up to the top and pray up there. But I felt like God told me to come down to the lake. I didn't really know why. And it's so funny. When you're like so set on walking alone, God can intervene in the most obvious ways in your life. And you can still go, it was a coincidence. She's just a weird lady who sits on the edge of a lake with a med kit all the time. Probably. I think when you're committed to the idea that you're meant to walk alone, it doesn't matter how much God tries to make his way in. We keep ourselves away because we're just like, I just don't think it's me, man. I don't think it's me you want to walk with. But I think that's what he helps free us from. I think that's the whole point of the reconciliation. You know, it's not to make you a better person and give you a better life. He's actually reconciling you to relationship. The byproduct is, yes, things change and get better and your mindset shifts and the way you view the world changes. But the relationship is the point. And not just a relationship, because we got to define that. The friendship. The actual, I want to walk with you. I want to be with you. I want you to be able to pray to me like conversationally. My prayers nowadays, I've noticed they're far more conversational. Like, and for better or for worse. Because like, I let go. Like when I'm mad, I just yell. And I'm just like, you know what I'm saying. You're God. Interpret. But it's real. You know where that comes from? I'm like, I know that he already knows what I'm feeling anyway. Why am I trying to hide it from him? You approach God differently. You're not so afraid. There's a respect that, you could do anything. Like, my life is in your hands. But I've seen what it looks like in your hands, and it looks saved. It looks like you keep it safe. It looks like you're not trying to destroy it. So I trust that. If I trust that, then I can trust that I can be my real self with you. That's the kind of relationship God wants with us. But I think for that to happen, things have to get out of our hearts, have to get out of the way. Why do I say all this? Because I think it's important to know that God isn't just changing you for the sake of making you better, because you need to measure up in order to have a relationship with him. He just doesn't want there to be distance. So he's like, I'm going to remove things, yes, but it's for the purpose of getting closer. They're just in the way. That's it. So what does Jesus do? How does he do this with us? How does he take us from somebody who walks alone to somebody who walks with him? First thing he does, he helps us walk free. Throw up this verse in John. So I'm just going to read this. This is Jesus talking at a festival, and then I'll give some context to that, and we'll wrap it up with that. So on the last day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and shouted to the crowds, "Anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink. For the scriptures declare, rivers of living water will flow from his heart." So, where's Jesus saying this? So this is in the middle of a festival called the Festival of Shelters, right? Sounds exciting. Sign me up. There's all these festivals, actually, in Jewish culture. They're outlined in a passage in Deuteronomy or Leviticus, one of the two, I can't remember. But you look, and it's just one long passage that says festival, 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 right? It outlines the Sabbath. It outlines the Passover. It outlines all these things. And what's so crazy is when you break those down, all of them have this sort of tone that's like, okay, you're presenting yourselves to God and you're denying yourself, right? It's just a moment to remember that God is up there and all this stuff, right? But this one's different. This festival actually is the only one where they were celebrating freedom from slavery. The only one. This is the festival Jesus chooses to stand up and offer something. Seems a bit out of place, right? Offer it at one of the other ones where they're just giving gifts, and then you're back and you're like, oh, I've got something for you, don't worry. No, but they're already celebrating that they've been set free as a people. So why does he stand up there and say this statement? I think he's sending us a message. He's going, it's so great that you're celebrating the freedom that happened back here. It's so great that I freed you as a people from slavery, but I actually have a better freedom for you. I have a new freedom for you, and it's a heart freedom. See, the way Jesus helps us walk free is he frees us from slavery, not literal slavery, but slavery of the heart. Because our hearts, they go through a lot. And we try to understand them. We try to make sense of them. And it's important, the Bible tells us this, out of the heart flow the issues of life. But Jesus actually stands up and he's like, I don't just want to fix your heart, I want to free your heart. I want it to be so free and so open. Yes, you're celebrating freedom from this kind of slavery, but this is a different kind of slavery. This is an individual slavery that you're in yourself. You're in your own head. You're in your own heart. You're lost, but I actually have freedom for that. I'm not just trying to free you as a group. I'm actually trying to individualize this. See, it changes things because it's not enough to celebrate the moment God brought you to a great church, right? It's a great thing, but he actually has more for you. He has an individual, personalized freedom for you. I think we can't stop at the celebration of the things that have been, the good things that have happened to us, the things that he's done through small moments in our life, and just go, that's it. You must be done with me. No, he's like, come to me. If you're thirsty, come to me. You're thirsty, you need a drink, I've got the drink you're looking for. You're unfulfilled, come to me. I've got the fulfillment you're looking for. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to the individual. This is a group activity. We're celebrating as a group. That's great, but anyone, he says, anyone comes to me. Rivers of living water will flow from his heart. I'm about to personalize this thing you're celebrating, this freedom you're celebrating. But how does he do that? What does that look like? I think he does this. It's really simple. He restores the value. Anybody ever sold something secondhand on like OfferUp or Let Go or Craigslist? It is by far the most frustrating experience ever. Because I do my research, okay? I know why I'm listing it. Believe it or not, I didn't just close my eyes and push a bunch of numbers and go, oh, that's what I'm selling it for. I know what it's worth. That's why I have it listed at $100. You list something at $100, you know it's worth $100. In fact, it's probably worth $150. But you know what? I'll knock $50 off because I want to sell the thing today. And then inevitably, you get your first little ping. So exciting. Yes, somebody's going to buy it. Hey, pal, $10. Yeah, okay, I'm not selling it for $10. It's worth And I go down, I always counter with, how about 99? Take that. I'm not budging. You got to assert your you got to assert your strength on these apps. It's kind of a dog-eat-dog world. You'll get it. I'm experienced. Secondhand selling is rough. It's a rough circle. But people come in and they just test you, $10, $15. Before you know it, you got another one, $30, $25, $35, $20. I'm just like, before I know it, my inbox is just flooded with offers that if I just look at those, I start to actually get convinced that maybe what I have isn't worth what I thought it was worth. And I think our heart's the same way, because our whole life, people are offering us things for it. And I go, well, I think this thing's worth more than this. But I have an inbox full of experiences that tell me it's not. I have an inbox full of things that are just telling me, well, your heart isn't actually that great. You're actually not as special as you thought you were. And then God steps in, and he tells us we are. He tells us it is. You see this? It's like this thing, it doesn't mix. Somebody's lying. This affects our view of God because we go, well, either you're, at best, you're a naive optimist saying these things about me. But at worst, you're a cruel liar. Because I know what I am. And we start to believe what this says about us, what our past relationships, the girls or guys who said the things to you that you can't forget. And we get convinced that's what it's actually worth. So I'll just sell it to the highest bidder. And we keep giving it away. This is the problem. This is the thing God came for. He came for your heart. If you don't know that it's valuable, you don't protect it. We don't lock things in a safe that are valueless. We don't lock our trash in. We lock our most valuable possessions away. And so if we don't think our heart's valuable, I don't care. Whoever wants to date me can date me. Whatever people say to me is what it is. It's been my whole life. It is what I am. So they're not doing anything but pointing out the facts. And we live at this level. It prevents us from God because he's going, but you're fearfully and wonderfully made. He's going, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. He's going, I actually know every single hair on your head. How can you accept that love when you got an inbox full of things that say you deserve this? See, this is why when Jesus comes, he restores value, right? Because God looked at us and he said, I know my words are never going to be enough to convince you, but I can do something for you. I can send you the thing that I value the most. Because I want to show you how valuable you are to me. When you're at your lowest point, when you're at the moment where you actually go, this is the version of me that I'm most embarrassed of, the version of me that I know has hurt people, that I know I've done things that I wish I could take back, and you go, that's the version that you said was valuable enough to send your son for? How can you be convinced? How can you then be convinced that the things that have been said to you or not said to you, all the things that are in your inbox, how can you ever be convinced that those things are who you are? You can't. He didn't leave any room for you to believe that stuff. He said, I'm going to send you the thing that is most valuable to me because you need to remember how valuable you are to me. He establishes value. That's the first thing he does. He frees your heart. He opens it up. Because if it's not open, you can't even receive the love that's on the table. It's so awkward to accept something that you don't feel like you deserve. Like, give somebody, anybody ever watch Mr. Beast videos on YouTube? It's, okay, nobody. All right. Guess we're just weird. Turns out. He goes around just giving money to people. He's a pretty funny dude, and he gets sponsorships, so his YouTube videos get so many views that people just will give him like 50 grand just because he'll plug their product or whatever. And then he just gives that money away. That's like his whole thing. But it's so funny. You see when he walks up to him, he's like, hey, here's $5,000. People like back away. It's like, I don't know why you're doing this. What did I do? What did I do to deserve how? I don't want this. And people literally walk away, and he's like, I'm just giving you money. But it's so funny, the reactions you get when you try to give people things that they're just like, I didn't earn this. I didn't earn this. Not only did I not earn it, I don't deserve this. See, God actually, the first thing he does is before you've done a single thing, he tells you you deserve this because he created you, because he loves you. He says that your heart is so worth it that I will give you absolutely everything, and you have to do nothing for it. See, we've got to know the first thing Jesus does is he opens this thing up. Not this thing. It's not going to make sense. Stop trying to understand God before you let him love you. Spent my whole life trying to understand him until I realized one day Jesus told us to love him with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. He ordered it that way for a reason. You can't love him with your head first. You got to know this thing is so valuable to you. That's the thing he's trying to get to. So just open it up. It doesn't need much space. And he'll help you walk free. Second thing he does, he helps us walk through. I think one of the hardest things as a Christian is that you kind of go, okay, God, I'll invite you into my life. I'll open myself up to you. And I kind of have this expectation that things will get better, right? Like, I won't be so sad, or I won't have depression in my life, or you'll free me from these things, and it's just going to happen. And then I won't have any problems. It's going to be great. Sign me up for that. Problem is when that's your expectation, things still happen. The first thing you go back and go and do is ask God, what's the deal? Thought we had an arrangement. Thought you were going to make my life better. And the amount of times that things have happened in my own life where I'm just like, God, this isn't supposed to happen to me. I'm a Christian. I'm serving you. I'm saying your name from a stage. If anyone is exempt, shouldn't I be exempt, God? Shouldn't I not have to go through something this hard? And it gets frustrating. But I feel like he's given us a way to get through it. He's actually given us purpose behind it. It's all about how we view the thing we're going through. Because it's not there. And if you go back to what God's goal is, right? He wants to establish friendship with you. I think we're so quick to mark everything up to a trial when things are not going well. Because it helps us make sense of it. Oh, God's just testing me. Testing you for what? So you can prove that you want the relationship bad enough? He already gave it to you freely. What is he testing you for? I think there's so much more to the things we go through, the things we walk through, than just a simple trial. I think we're too quick to label things a trial and God testing me. He's doing way more than that. I want to read this verse to you in Daniel. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. The story is this. The Israelites, they're living in a foreign land, and they've got a God in this land, and the king says, you have to serve this God. And they're basically like, yo, we're not going to serve him. He's like, I'm going to kill you. He's like, so be it. All you have to do is bend a knee, though. No, I can't, because I know he's got me. I don't have to prove anything. I know he's got me. That's how close we are. I know he's got me. I don't have to prove anything. I'm not doing this to show him. I'm doing this to remind me that I'm that convicted that he'll deliver me. This is where we pick it up. We do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. I love that phrase, even if he doesn't. Man, what the world would look like if Christians had the mindset of, I'm going to serve him. And even if it doesn't quite look like what I thought it should look like when I signed up for this, I'm still going down believing. Even if he doesn't take this thing away that I'm going through right away, even if the things that are happening in my life don't line up with the promises just yet, I'm still going to stand here and I will not bow. I won't bow to anxiety. I won't bow to the mindset that this is as good as my life will ever get and it's all downhill from here. I refuse. I'm going down believing. Even if he doesn't deliver me, I'm going down believing. I'm going to see him today. That's the mindset these guys had. But this is what happens. They get thrown in anyway, right? And he basically, he raises the temperature of the furnace, throws them in, has them tied up. So hot, no one could even come near it. Next slide. So they go in, it says securely tied. Man, the feeling when the things in your life that you're like, God, anything but that. Anything but I can't lose a job. Anything but don't touch this relationship. God, I'll do anything, but don't send me somewhere I can't be away from my family. And then he doesn't take it away. Oh, the feeling when you're involuntarily thrown in is so terrible. It's so terrible. But yet, there's someone waiting for them in that fire. See, they go in and it says, Your Majesty. He said, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them in? Yes, Your Majesty, we certainly did. Look, I see 4 men unbound walking around. So funny how the very thing that Jesus freed us to do, to walk with him, we're able to do in the hottest and fiercest fires in our life. We're able to stand and walk regardless of how hot it is, of how much we don't want to be in it. We can walk with him anyway. And you notice it doesn't say he was surrounding them and protecting them, but he was freeing them. Because they went inbound. They went inbound by fear. You go into things and you're bound by, the what if? What if the worst should happen? There's something about walking in the what if. There's something about walking in the thing that you dreaded, that you go, if this happens, I don't know how I'll deal with it. You know how you'll deal with it? You'll walk with him the way you walked with him from day one. You'll walk with him because that's what he died to do with you. And you can do that anywhere. See, it's hot, but it's to burn some things off. Because whether or not you're thrown into these things in life, that fear is still holding you back. The fear of what if, it stops you from trusting God fully. It stops you from seeing him for who he really is. It stops you from seeing his goodness. Maybe one day you'll just make a bad thing happen. I don't know if I can fully commit to you. He burns that off. He gets rid of it. It's not just a trial. It's actually there to free you to walk. But I think as long as we're so focused on the fact that we don't want to be in it, we don't pick our head up long enough to see that he's already in it with us. That he was actually waiting for us in the very thing that we were dreading. That he's actually waiting for peace in circumstances that you should not have peace. You know, my wife and I, we lost a baby on Saturday when we had a miscarriage a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, right? Saturday. So we had the choice. What are we going to do Sunday morning? I didn't want to be in this. I didn't ask for this. You're supposed to be good. But I remember when we made the choice and we said, we're just going to get up and we're going to walk. We're going to walk to the car. We're going to walk from the car to the front row. We're going to stand where we've been standing for 5 years. And we're going to keep believing, even if this pain doesn't go, I'm still not going to let go of you. Because you made me to walk with you, so I'm going to walk with you this morning. See, that wasn't a moment where we were trying to inspire people. We weren't sitting there going, people will see, and then God will be glorified. We weren't even thinking about that. We were just like, this hurts so bad. But I don't know what else to do besides walk. And let me tell you, see, the story doesn't end there. I think there's such a struggle because God leaves us with tasks. Jesus left the earth and he said, but I want you to go out and make disciples of all nations. Yes, this whole walking with you thing is great. This whole walking through fires is great and all, but how do I do the thing you left me things to do? See, it actually happens as a byproduct in this verse of them walking through this. Go to the next one. They walk out, and look what it says happens. As they come out, the high officers, officials, governors, advisors, the most influential people, the very people that served the God that they were denying. Nebuchadnezzar actually says, servants of the Most High God, before begging them to acknowledge his God, voluntarily then acknowledging theirs. As they walk out of the thing, that they go, no person should be able to go through that. But it's not just that they walked out not even smelling like the fire they were just in. See, when you walk out a restored family, people gather around because they go, you don't smell a thing like that miscarriage. There's not a hint of bitterness on you. How did you go through that? See, that's the moment where you can lift up his name and say, it's the name of Jesus that got me through that, because I don't understand everything about him, but I know one thing, he loves me, and if he loves me, he's going to work this out. I don't quite know the answers yet, but I'm going to walk through it because I know he's walking with me, because I know he's not doing it to me. People gather to see a life that walks through things and doesn't have a hint of it on them. I think we got to simplify this a little bit. Yes, there are things God has to do on this earth. Otherwise, why are we here? He could just take us. But he's got business. That business isn't you earning your place in heaven. A business is there are people that don't know yet. There are people that don't know yet. And you can try to tell them all you want. But the best way you can do it is show them. Show them how convicted you are. Plant yourself and say, I'm going to be here no matter what happens in my life. You know how you get through this? Man, when Jesus is your everything, when you go, think of what he offers you. I have a relationship with a God that is so powerful, that is so loving, and you just have free access to it. Nothing else in the world. Everything starts to fade a little bit. And it puts you in this place where no matter what happens to you, there's something in you that you just know deep down, I have the thing in this world that is most valuable. And nothing can take that away. No matter what happens to me, no matter what I get, no matter what I don't get, I have this thing that no man can take because it's not rooted in anything on this earth. There's something about being able to walk through things that makes people gather. I want to encourage you. I don't know what you're going through, and I know it's probably hard. I'm not saying this lightly. I'm not saying this is easy. It wasn't easy for us. It hasn't been. But I can tell you one thing. As much as you think you're in it, he's already been in it. As much as you think he's throwing you in, he's not. But he's waiting in it. He's waiting to walk through it with you. And he will. And I believe this. I believe in this kind of a series, it's inevitable. Things are going to start to come up, right? When we start to talk messages like this, things are going to come up. Know this. Not a single thing God's ever brought up in my life has he ever made me walk through by myself. He brings people. He gives things like peace and just purpose and things that don't belong in situations like, and I'm not saying what we went through is worse than what you're going through. I'm just saying this is our story. And I remember it was real, and I remember it was hard. So I don't want you to ever think I'm speaking to you as someone who expects you to just do this. I know this is hard, but I'm trying to speak as someone who goes, hey, I've walked through some stuff. And I watched him show up, and I watched him restore, and I watched him give us twin girls after we lost one. I watched him heal our marriage through losing a job. I've watched him walk with me over and over, and I know he'll do the same for you. Does that speak to you this morning, church? Come on, can we lift up Jesus?